All right. Hey, everybody. This is Trevor Francis, and we are on NJ and Color pop up conversation. It's been a while since I've been on here, so bear with us as we go through our various technical issues. I'm getting knocking the dust off of being live again. So today is a pop up conversation, but this is kind of an announcement. I'm returning back to going live once again. For those of you who have been with me for years now, back in 2020, we did something called Bergen and Color Live, and we did that for quite a while actually. And when I was dealing with the changes of life and having a baby and everything, I kind of let that go. But it's time to get back into the swing of things. So I'm bringing it back because there are so many people that you guys need to meet, so many great North Jersey residents, professionals, just interesting people that I want you guys to get to know as I get to know them as well. So welcome back to, now I guess it's called NJ and Color Live. We'll see how this goes. And I'm Trevor Francis, the founder and publisher of NJ and Color, a Tev Media LLC publication. Got to put that on there. Trademark pending. All right. So just a few updates before we get started with our conversation. So if you are a business owner and you're joining us, we have a full BIPOC business directory that has been taking shape. We have over 130 businesses subscribed to it. We send out information about grants, about events that are relevant to business owners in North Jersey. So if you are a Black-owned business, a Latino-owned business, POC-owned business, go ahead and go to our website at njincolor.com and join our database, and you'll get information about different things going on and also the opportunity to join our directory. Also, for just everybody in general, if you are an event producer, an organization, anybody that holds events or programs or things that are relevant to Black and POC communities, go ahead and send that to us to be added to our event calendar. We have a full event calendar. It's looking a little flimsy right now because I have to upload the events. But as you know, on NG in Color, I share lots of events, lots of programs, and we want to get the community active in those programs and events. So send them to us at eventcalendar@njincolor.com. And we want to see what you got going on. Also, if you have jobs that you are posting, send them to us as well at publisher@njincolor.com. And then I guess the last thing would be just support these events, support this site, njincolor.com, at njincolor on all social media platforms. I don't know if you guys can see my logo in the background, but that's where you go. We're trying to still grow and continue to be the hub for information and lifestyle in North Jersey for the Black community and POC as well. So give me a shout out if you are in the chat. Let me know what's going on, and we'll go ahead and get started. So I'm going to bring on my guests today, Mr. David Carlor and Mr. Jason Murray. And they are both two financial professionals, two business professionals that I respect in this community. And I wanted you guys probably know David, you probably know Jason, because they've done a lot. They're so kind of everywhere, depending on what you're doing. So I want you guys to get to know them as well. So I'm going to start with David. David, just give us an update about who you are, where we can find you, what you do, all of that stuff.
Oh, thank you, Tevra, and congrats. The platform's expanding, and you're doing good work. So we're seeing you out here. So that's kudos to you and all your hard work.
Thanks.
I'm a 15, 16-year financial planning veteran, right? I'm here in North Jersey, office in Paramus on Century Road, here at Northwestern Mutual. I think financial planning is a nice route to financial freedom, right? Versus rolling the dice. So I like to help individuals and families and small businesses plan, get information. I like to share information, educate, coach on financial planning and what it means. I'm passionate about it. I think our community needs it more than ever, now more than ever, especially now more than ever. And that's what I'm here for, is to have conversations and open those cans and really dig in. So that's me, seasoned financial professional. Discuss though if you want some apparel, some fashion meets finance. I like I like your Discuss Dough shirt. You can find that at discussdough.com, and we're here to talk.
Okay, Jason, let us know what you do, who you are, and about all of the things that you're working on as well.
Well, certainly. Well, thank you for inviting me to take part in this conversation. Good to meet you live, David. I've seen you being advertised on different shows. I know you do a great job, so it's a pleasure being on the show here with you. Jason Murray, I'm a sales and marketing consultant. I'm a financial services entrepreneur. I'm a two-time best-selling author, and I'm about to release my third book, which is the 7 mindsets to successfully transition from employee to entrepreneur. So, my goal is really to empower the next generation of entrepreneurs, as well as mentor individuals to be fiscally and financially literate. As
Mhm.
my role as a financial professional, I help individuals, small business owners, institutions who just need to plan for their short term goals, midterm goals, as well as long term goals. But more importantly, give them peace of mind knowing that after they sit down with Jason Murray, they have a blueprint for success, a blueprint for taking their goals and aspirations and objectives, and that plan of action is going to bring them to fruition. So, but the biggest thing is my book is about to release, and it's going to be the release date is on Amazon to be um, April 14th. So I'm taking pre-orders right now on my website,
All right.
jasonsmurray.com.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Jason. All right. So let's get started. So we've been trying to have this conversation for a while, and David knows how I am. I email, then I get sidetracked. I have a almost 2 year old. Stuff goes by the wayside, and then something pops up in the news. I'm just like, oh man, we need to be talking about this. And then I'll email him again, and then he won't hear from me for like 3 weeks. And so, and so the reason why we came up with this today is because the original conversation was around the banking instability that was from, I guess, a couple weeks ago. Um, the Silicon Valley Bank shut down. That was a big old ripple effect throughout the markets and everything. And I haven't really been hearing much about it on the regular um, news, but that doesn't mean it hasn't gone away. That the effects haven't gone away. Along with rising inflation, everything costs so much money. Um, and a lot of businesses are shutting down. People are getting laid off. There are massive layoffs in several sectors, including tech. And I just wanted to have this conversation about a possible recession. They keep saying yes, they keep saying no. We don't know who to believe. We don't know what to do. But like they always say, when when the country has a flu, has a cold, the African American community has pneumonia, or maybe the other one, C word.
Yeah.
So we need to make sure that for in our scope of influence of knowledge, we're sharing the information to our community, especially here in North Jersey, because there is a huge wealth gap, and we want to make sure that we don't lose many more people to um, you know, financial distress. So, David, I'm going to start with you. What are some of your thoughts about the banking situation? I need you to explain what's going on if you're versed in that. I know you are. Explain to us, like as if I am my 2 year old, what is going on, and some of your thoughts about it.
Um, I think the good thing, well, not the good thing, but I think the less problematic thing is that it somewhat was concentrated to those banks because of specific behaviors they were engaging in, right? So I don't know if you remember the last administration, they lessened the reserve requirements, meaning the banks have $10 of your money, they should have some of that cash on hand at all times, right? In case you want to come and withdraw your money. The last administration said, let's not handicap the banks and force them to keep all this dead money sitting there. Let them go out and work with that money, right? So they went out and bought a bunch of treasury bills, speaking, specifically Silicon Valley Bank, right? Bought a bunch of treasuries, right? And when interest rates go up, the value of your treasuries go down. So they owned all these treasuries that had lost a lot of value, and now people need their cash. Well, the reserves weren't there because they went out and bought treasury with it, so they had to sell those treasuries that had, depressed in price, and now they're realizing all these losses because they have to liquidate, right? And then once they announced that they had these issues, and it just exacerbated the problem because now everyone's like, well, then give me my money. You guys are not healthy. So I think the short end of it is those, banks were cheating. Banks were made to just lend money and take deposits. Once you go out there buying things and owning things, and now you're trying to do too much, as we like to say. So I think that those were isolated events. They didn't have a huge deposit base like, some of your bigger banks have millions of checking accounts and savings accounts and consumer loans, mortgages, auto loans. Those banks are real concentrated, right? Silicon Valley Bank was all startup, majority was just startup lending. So they didn't have a huge diverse base of cash coming in. So once that issue happened, there was really nothing they can do. Like they were doomed. So I don't think your big banks are going to have that problem, right? Your local bank is doing auto loan, not your local, your local big bank I'm referring to, right? Whether it's
Big
Bank of
banks isn't like your Wells Fargo's and your
yeah, they have auto loans, credit cards, mortgages, and the deposits from checking and saving. Right, they have a lot of that. Where these other regional banks just had like a smaller base of stuff coming in. So once you have a problem in one area, and you're only doing business in two areas, you're done. Just like I tell a client to diversify their own personal portfolio. Well, these banks weren't doing that, right? Even though we're telling clients to do it, right? They weren't following that theme. So I think it was concentrated, but that was the issue. And obviously the overall the market's gonna get, gonna tremble a little bit, right? People don't know why it happened, so everyone gets nervous. So you saw people just nervous about the bank sector in general, not really understanding the concentration of these problems. So that was that. But you know, overall I think yes, could we be headed for a recession? Sure. If we do, I think if you're doing sound financial planning, every client I sit with on day one, we know that you have to be prepared for good times and bad times. So if you're only in the game, you can only play well when you're up 20 points, then you're not ready to play ball, so you got to be prepared for when you're down 20, right? That's why we talk about risk management, not just wealth accumulation. Part of financial planning is risk management, it's wealth accumulation, and it's wealth distribution. So if we're doing all three, we can't control recessions and the different cycles. That's just normal. So you just have to be ready for all of it. That's my spiel.
Okay. All right. So with Jason, in your estimation, like what are some of the things that our community in particular, what are some of the things that we should be looking out for as far as like our own finances? Do you have it, or I know you talk a lot about entrepreneurship and businesses and small businesses. What are some of the things that people in these categories of, either you're an entrepreneur or you're just a person that is interested in just preserving as much money as you can? What are some of the things that we should be on the lookout for during this kind of weird time?
Well, Trevor, I would say that the key thing and what I believe what gives people a real problem, and that's the word budgeting. Okay, the B word, right? And people act as though it's hard to budget,
Mm-hmm.
right? I believe if we can get disciplined on budgeting, if we really understand what our cash flow is, understand what monies are coming in, what our expenses are, and live within our means, we'll be in a better position in a lot of instances. But unfortunately, we have a consumer mindset in a lot of cases in our community. So if we have a consumer mindset and the businesses, the advertisers know this, they're
Mm-hmm.
going to continue advertising their goods and services. And as individuals with a consumer mindset, we're going to continue overspending and not sticking to a budget.
Mm-hmm.
So something as simple as maintaining a budget is going to go so much further
Mm-hmm.
because if interest rates are increasing, if inflation is increasing, that means our purchasing power, we can only purchase less. on the same amount that we had. But let's say we get an increase in our income. We take on overtime. We take on a side job. Unfortunately, we find that most people, we still spend whatever we make.
You got to
So
ball out.
if you're making more and you're still spending more, then you are just putting yourself in harm's way. So I would say the budgeting and discipline ourselves to really understand our cash flow and really manage our cash flow, we're going to have a better outcome when we have to say pivot or make necessary adjustments as we've had to make through the increase of inflation. Now, in terms of a recession, even if we go to a recession, we still, if we are fiscally responsible, we can pull back on certain things. We can still manage our living expenses. But unfortunately, people, I have a son who's in the car business. And when he shares with me the amount of car note payments that people are spending to just want to look good, is unbelievable. So I'm saying, if they haven't read The Millionaire Next Door, that's a book that's been out a long time, but it trains you on being fiscally responsible and living within your means. So I believe that's the basic thing that we have to do.
And just to piggyback on that point, so I'm probably the type that I want, I like cars and all of those things, but also I'm married to a husband who has a millionaire mindset. So he keeps all of that like firmly in check. But it's to the greater good, right? We have student loans that we're paying off. We have a mortgage. We have a new baby. We have all of these things that are going on that if I were to have my way, we'd be like completely bankrupt. So somebody has to have the discipline to say no, just no as a full sentence. Um, there's all of these things where if you go back and it was playing again during Black History Month. It was about selling. It's called Selling to the Negro American or something like that, which basically was an old school advertising blueprint on how to make things like Cadillacs and different things attractive to the Black consumer. And this was from like early on in probably the 60s maybe, where it's designed to, because of our own internal views on ourselves and how far we've come as either a people or as an individual. We feel like once we get into a certain space, we have to get these things because these are the marks of how far I've made it. And while that could be true, a lot of times we're making these purchases or leasing these vehicles or doing these things without really truly meeting the mark of where you're trying to look like you are. And Bergen County kind of has that image of being so affluent, and so we have to have this certain thing because we're not this place and we're not that place. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter how much your car is worth if there's nothing in your account to back it up, or when it's time to when things get lean, they have to take the car. Now you're back into your square one vehicle or on the bus. So I think we have to. It's kind of like a mindset shift overall, but and that could be like a whole nother discussion for another day. But I just wanted to just interject that a lot of it is psychological and has been handed down through the generations. And
I think
it's
you
a
bring up
lot of
a very good point, and it's been handed down. But we have to break the cycle.
We do,
And
and that's
we have to break the cycle with our children.
Yeah, and that's why we need to discuss dough, right, David? We
There
need
we
to talk
go.
about. We need to talk about.
That's what went into creating that apparel, because we're buying other family names, right? What makes you know Gucci better than you? Like, why is that the symbol of success? Why is Tevra Francis clothing not the symbol of success? Like, who said that family is the name I need to buy? It's just crazy. So I'm like, I need to wear my own stuff from now on. And that's piece of it. And to piggyback on, you mentioned something to stay away from. The one thing I'll say is we need to just stop concentrating, right, or there's no magic pill. And what we find in our community is we're so desperate for success. Someone says, "What's the way to get rich?" Real estate. Okay, you say real estate, and then we go empty out all of our accounts and put it in real estate. Or someone says options trading. We go empty everything, and now we're full-time option traders. There's no cheat. You can't cheat to this. Like, you need to be diverse. You need to be well balanced and take. I heard someone say there's no elevator to success. You got to take the stairs. You can't overnight. There's no such thing as overnight success. So I think when we get so excited when we hear things, we over rotate and we end up looking like Silicon Valley Bank. Right? Same issue. You can't be so concentrated in one thing. You can't cheat. So just be diverse, be disciplined, like you said, and budget, and you'll be okay.
We have a comment from Tammy Felton Mabuski. She says, The Millionaire Mindset is her all-time favorite book. Nice. I wonder why, Tam. Tammy is the most like level-headed and smart about finances. She should have been on this, but it's so pop up. We'll get you on another time. Hey, good afternoon, Greg. Thank you guys for watching. But yeah, so you mentioned, well, not even you mentioned, Jason, you're a 3-time author. David, you have your brand Disgusto. Let's talk about side hustles. If you don't mind me calling it that.
Yeah, no, let's talk about it.
Let's talk about depending on your situation. All of us do our various jobs. I'm a marketing consultant. NJ and Color just kind of took on a life of his own, because that's basically my job now. But for those of us who are thinking about adding like an extra income, what are some ways people can kind of shore up their finances through additional means of income?
I mean, I'll start. I can jump in. I would say be organic to yourself, right? There's no need for, if I'm a chef, I like cooking, so then start selling cars on the side, right? If I'm a chef, maybe I sell a cookbook. Maybe I create a recipe, right? Streams of income that's organic to what you're doing, where you already have a reputation in that marketplace, right? Bank of America, I like to use them as an example, but any bank, right? They're doing checking and savings accounts. It's only natural we expand to home loan. They have side hustles too, right? They call it streams.
I never thought of it like that, but yeah,
they
I
have
guess
streams
so.
of business, right? They have different verticals, right? Then they turn to investment banking, right? Like, they're going to do different things, and then we M&A, mergers and acquisitions. So you're just going to keep expanding organically. It's in the banking world, so it doesn't seem like, why is this person offering me an investment account when I have a savings account with them? That's fine. So like I said, if you're a chef, maybe, until you open your own restaurant, like I said, you establish a cookbook, right? Maybe you establish some recipes. Maybe you do tutorials on how to make, whatever you like to make, how to bake something. And I think that's the way to do it. Just organically expand through a brand that you already have credibility,
And Jason, I was going to pivot to you. So you're an author, and we have quite a few authors that follow this page. What are some of, I'm not assuming that being an author is your side hustle. That's what you do. So what advice would you give somebody who wants to become an author that has some expertise that they want to share?
Certainly. Understand what you're good at. Understand what you're knowledgeable about based on your journey in life. So when I wrote my first book, on encouraging our children to become entrepreneurs, and I showed the connection between fathers being an example for our children, and that gives the children the ability to increase their leadership skills, their character building skills. In addition, it's going to give parents multiple streams of income, and we keep more fathers in the household, right? So if you're thinking about becoming an author, think about what you're skilled at, what insights you can bring to the table that can benefit the masses. All right. So as I wrote my other books, the second book I was a co-author of that book, and my chapter was on success principles. And the success principles that I talked about was the importance of mentorship, the importance of paving the way for others, as the path to my success was paved for me through the mentors that I had and the legends in business that I followed after. I now want to pass that on to others. And then with my third book, the transition from employee to entrepreneurship, it was a follow-up to my first book, right? Because I got feedback saying, when I read your book, I loved it. It was great. But when I got to the end, I felt like I wanted more. So I said, okay, I'm going to give you more. And I got more detailed into the actual mindsets to successfully transition from employee to entrepreneur. And just an example of that, when I got let go at Merrill Lynch, when I was an advisor back in the global crisis, and that was 2008. So I pivoted and I started a health and wellness business based on my previous career as a pharmaceutical sales rep. So I understood health. So I pivoted into a health and wellness business. I didn't make a whole lot of money, but it gave me the ability then to shift into the Medicare business, of which I had my life and health insurance license. So I had current skill sets that I was able to pivot and utilize to continue making money. So any individual who has to think about how to come into business or how to become an author, again, understand your skill set and write about what you're good at and what you experience and teach the masses.
Okay, so let's pivot. You mentioned a layoff, and we talked about that briefly, but let's talk about when disaster strikes. Disaster meaning um, layoffs, a death, an illness, all of those things. With the way the economy is now, and with how just life is life be life, and how do you prepare yourself for what may occur? Like, what is a disaster scenario? What is the best way to prepare for when disaster strikes? David, we'll start with you.
To that point, I can tell you the worst time to put on a seatbelt is after an accident, right? So the best thing you can do is prepare before it gets here, right? That's number one. But I mean, once the disaster happens or once that trauma happens, I mean, then these certain principles just should always be in play. Like I always, when I'm coaching, doing career coaching with younger individuals, I tell them always work on your resume. Like even if you have a job, you have, as you're building new skill sets and increasing your expertise, always keep inventory of your skills, your own. I tell job, boost them because you never know what the next what's coming down the line. Um, if you have that mindset of always learning, I think that helps because if you learn like in Jason's scenario, pivoting from one field to another field, life and health to Medicare to healthcare, I think that only happens. That's only possible if you have these different interests, passions, and skill sets. So don't lock yourself into whatever your current role is. This is all I know. This is all I can do. No, there's other things that make you a whole person. So I say always, self development shouldn't be done once a year or once every. It should always be taking place. So you're always developing new skill sets. Don't try to get a skill now that the recession's here. I mean, if you don't have one, yeah, go get one. But hopefully, you would have been you internalize that behavior all the time. Like I'm always looking for a new skill set. Like I'm always trying to learn something else. I think we should all do that, and that's the best way to move around. But once the crisis is here, yes, boost your resume. Networking becomes super important, right? But again, even that, right? You call someone after you haven't built a relationship, and now you need a favor. It's going to be a lot tougher than had you always been that person reaching out, sharing, helping out in the community. I think those things help you out when time calls for it.
I'll interject with a short story. I was at an event the other day, and I told my layoff story, and I don't want to even get into it, but my background is in healthcare administration, and health insurance and all of that stuff, and compliance with government insurance agencies for healthcare. That's my actual background. I'm not a media person at all by any means. But when it came time to kind of reevaluate what I'm going to do going forward after I was laid off from a job that I thought I would be, rising through the ranks, um, I had to take a step back, um, and just try to figure out like what were the common threads throughout my career. I've always been a connector. I've always been a communicator in some degree or another. I'm a decent writer. and how can I use those particular skill sets to, pivot and go into another direction, because that was our disaster. Yeah, it was like the bottom fell out of my career, my self-esteem, a lot of things. But do you just sit there and just like wallow in it, or do you say, okay, let me dust myself off and figure it out? It takes, it wasn't overnight. It was a process. And sometimes I think back and I, think about, the what ifs. What if that hadn't happened? But also life goes on, and you decide, what gifts do I have? Did God give me that? Maybe he wasn't. Maybe, things kind of happen for a reason, and they always happen for a reason, in my opinion. Because maybe if I hadn't, been pushed out, I wouldn't spread my wings and create this platform that helps so many people. So, you know, even though it might seem like a desperate situation, you have to kind of, evaluate within yourself, like, what can you do to move forward? And maybe the thing that is put on your heart to take you to that next step is going to be something that benefits not just you, but for your entire family, your family line, and your community as well. So keep that in mind. It's not all is lost situation. We just want to, make some points, bring some points to the surface so that people can kind of start thinking within themselves, like, what is in the background that I can kind of like pull from, even while I'm gainfully employed, even while, things are okay. Maybe I can like start something else on the side, or maybe I can volunteer somewhere and build up this skill set, if I have some spare time, just in case you have to do a pivot like we have had to at some point or another. So I just wanted to make that point. Jason, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I would definitely add to that, and it's a perfect segue because in terms of volunteering your time, right? So I volunteered my time in professional organizations throughout my career. So
Mm-hmm.
one of the organizations is National Sales Network, which I've been a member for 25 plus years, currently a board member. And throughout my career, if I needed another job, right, if I got laid off, I had those networks with corporations through the National Sales Network who are always looking for sales talent.
Mm-hmm.
So, additionally, I would say continue to build your brand. So, even though I've worked from corporations for many years and I've been an entrepreneur and working for myself for a number of years, I'm continuing to build my brand. Therefore, companies are always contacting me through LinkedIn. I get inquiries through LinkedIn on a regular basis every week. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a result of me building my brand, volunteering my time, building my platform skills. Now, as a public speaker, I gain credibility in the marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
And as I do that, I'm able to seek out opportunities, even if I'm not even looking for opportunities. Opportunities are coming my way. And
Mm-hmm.
it gives me the leverage to make decisions. So you always want to be in a position where you can make a decision, not having a company make the decision for you, and then you are left figuring out, well, how am I going to now generate income?
Yeah.
All right. So building your brand and networking within professional organizations has been, my key area of success. And I recommend that individuals do that wholeheartedly.
And one thing I've learned too is, you being a part of professional organizations is one thing, but even some of our social groups are very much impactful as far as having the connections that we need, because I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and I'm also one of the board development committee people for the Girl Scouts of Northern New Jersey. And through some of these organizations that I've either attended their events or been actually a part of, you meet some really interesting people and really influential people who are also volunteering their time, just like you said, because we don't get paid for any of these things. In fact, some of these things you pay a lot of money for. So to participate in some of these events, it adds up. But just participating, when you go to these events, you know, meet somebody that you've never spoken to before. That's how Tammy and I met. Tammy, Tammy's always just an angel in my life, but when we met, she didn't know me from Adam, and she came up to me, and we've been friends ever since. And so, don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone. A lot of us, like, people will think like I'm this extrovert. I am not an extrovert at all. When it's time for me to be home, I am home. But I also understand that in order to get to where I need to be, I have to open my mouth. I have to meet people. I have to shake hands. And is it exhausting by the time I get home? Yes, I'm very tired from being social for lengths of time. But also, I understand that had I not introduced myself to a Tammy or to some of the people that I've met, I don't know where this platform, if this even would have been a platform, because it would be hard to reach people if I was scared to talk to them. So just keep that in mind. Like it kind of goes down to personality as well, but just pray about it and just put your best foot forward and just be secure in knowing that everything's going to be okay.
I agree with that.
Absolutely.
And follow
So
your passion. Follow your
mhm,
passion. You always find an opportunity when you're doing things you love.
yeah, yeah. So okay, so we've talked about layoffs. We talked about what the actual market is doing and your estimation of what's going forward, what might happen going forward. Um, I don't like getting too deep into politics, but yesterday was a big day in New York City. Won't talk about he who will not be named on my platform, but how do you feel people of color, in particular Black people, can navigate the what might be ahead? Because depending on how where you lean, things are going to change either way. So how can we best prepare ourselves, politically, which the political somewhat always kind of affects the financial. How can we kind of prepare ourselves or shore ourselves up so that if a change comes, we are we are not left, struggling at the bottom?
I mean, I'll jump in. I would
Mhm.
say there's so many people who you speak to them and they say I don't like politics or I don't get involved in politics. First of all,
Mhm.
your life is controlled heavily by politics, so to just not have an opinion on it to
Mhm.
me is kind of dangerous, right? So you just
Mhm.
someone else is just controlling you, right? You're the puppet on the string, and someone else is telling you what should happen to you. So I think use your voice, right? And you'd be surprised how accessible your local politicians are, right? Their livelihood depends on you as constituents. So reaching out to your local congressperson, I think it matters. It helps. But maybe take some time just to learn the different platforms, both whatever side you fall on, because that thing has a lot of implications on everything, on the school your kids are going to, what they're being taught, the food you eat. I mean, politics is everywhere. You can't ignore politics. Yes, it's not clean all the time. It's a lot
Mhm.
of it is crazy and messy, but it's important to understand, what's being campaigned for, what topics are being spoken about. Right? We may not like the players, but there are some real issues that need to be discussed, and you should have an opinion on it. So
Yeah.
I would say just learn the different platforms and positions, learn about the different parties. These people are dictating things that matter in your life. So why would you not? So
Yeah.
that's all I have is just learn about it, learn what impacts your community, and make decisions from there.
Hmm.
And
Jason?
I would add that, attending community events, attending, say, like caucus weekends. I'm from New York, so a lot of years I used to attend the caucus weekend up in Albany.
Hmm.
This year, recently, was the first year I went to Atlantic City for the League of Municipalities weekend, and
Oh wow.
just having an opportunity to hear what the various politicians are talking about, their various initiatives. And as a business professional, sometimes those initiatives, there'll be synergistic activities where I can take part in to assist in some of
Hmm.
those initiatives. So I
Hmm.
find that even though not having to necessarily be directly involved with politics, because I'm a business professional and not a politician,
Yeah.
and I can support our local politicians. And but more importantly, just really be involved with understanding what initiatives on a local level and on a state level
Hmm.
that they have. I know, for example, the African American Chamber of Commerce, John Harmon,
Mm-hmm.
very, very good brother, very well run organization.
Mm-hmm.
They are very well connected in the area of politics. Therefore, politics and business, they go together. So if you want to not
Definitely.
have an understanding or not have your lenses where you can um, either add value or
Mm-hmm.
benefit, but more so give service if you can by volunteering your time. That's my recommendation, to be just knowledgeable about really what's going on.
Love it. Love it.
That's a good point. And I'm just adding the AACNJ so that people can see them. I'm not a member, but they do good work, so I'm also not a hater.
Yeah, no, they're out there. Yeah, no,
They're
I
out there.
see.
He's doing a lot of things,
Yeah.
and so yeah, if you can wing it, you should join. Um, yeah, they do a lot of great things. So all right, so oh, and to that point, we are talking about politics. I'm sorry, I'm like running the background and the foreground. So so yeah, politically speaking, like you said, politics starts with your local politicians, your mayor, your council people, your school board. And one of the things that I've seen is that, we're engaged on the, and not even that I've seen, but we're engaged when it comes time to pick the president. We're engaged when it's time to pick the major seats. But when it's time to like support our local assembly person or our local, state Congress, or, those people, our mayors, our councilwomen, our councilmen, our board of education members, it's harder to get people to the polls. But these are the seats that directly affect the actual street you live on.
Yeah.
I remember a few years ago, the town that I live in, they were proposing to do a major building construction on the end of my street. And that was probably the most engaged. They were probably like, who is this woman? But I was vehemently opposed to that project because if there were other places for this thing to go. Why does it have to go at the end of this street where there's a park? And why are you taking out park space for a building that could go in a place that's more designed for that type of building? And so things like that, you have to stay politically engaged. You have to vote. Jason, you mentioned contributions. You have to contribute. And contributions don't always equal money. It could be your time. Politicians, when it's time to run and run their campaigns, they need people to phone bank. They need people to spread the word about their campaign, host an event, do all of these things. And I'm not trying to get too deep into. We lost David. We're not trying to get too far um, into politics, but there are so many ways to bolster your community, so that you have those relationships. So when something happens, you can say, "Hey, Senator so and so, I need this for my community, or I need this for my town." So that's how that works, also. So I guess we lost David. I think he might have had a hard stop at 12:15. So, thank you for your time, David. We'll get in contact. If you want to reach David, let me put his information up really quickly. He had a hard stop, and I talked right through it. But that is his information. He also has this great new brand called Discuss Dough, which is what we're discussing now. And so, yeah, support that man. All right. So anyway, so now that it's just me and you, Jason, let's talk about some of the things you have on the horizon. Like what new projects you're releasing your book in just a couple of days on the 14th, you said. What other things are you working on or have in the pipeline, with your consulting, with your speaking, and all of those things?
Well, one of the biggest things that I'm really charged with, and I'm going to tell you why I'm charged with it, because we as African Americans, we have to understand better about our finances. We have to better understand that there's people who look like us who are very knowledgeable about managing our finances. And there was an article in a newsletter. I belong to an organization, the Association of African American Financial Advisors. and it basically talked about how there's about 700,000 advisors in the United States.
Wow.
60,000 of them are black, and they have either Series 7 or they're an investment advisor, registered investment advisor, right? So it's a small percentage of that 700,000. Well, I'm one of those individuals. I'm part of that percentage. And I am charged with getting more African Americans and Hispanics, people of color, who see the financial service industry as a viable industry to get into. Because when we look at the amount of wealth, we have a large wealth gap. But yet we can narrow the wealth gap through education. We can also narrow the wealth gap by bringing more people of color into the industry to help the amount of people who are more consumer driven versus investment conscious. So I'm charged with that. Over the next year, I'm looking to bring on into my business at least 20 new financial advisors where I'm going to train you. I'm going to help you get license, and not just your insurance license, but getting your securities license, your Series 6, your Series 7, or your 65 to become a registered investment advisor. This way you can be in a position where you can accept fees for planning, you can accept fees for assets under management. And as the assets grow, your business will grow. But more importantly, we can narrow the wealth gap. Okay, so that's what I'm charged with. Mentoring, again, I mentioned to you earlier, I am charged with empowering the next generation of entrepreneurs. Right? People like Mr. Earl Graves.
Oh, wow.
Regular Lewis. I've worked for Mr. Graves. So seeing what
Earl Graves was the founder of Black Enterprise Magazine.
That's correct. That's correct. Bob Johnson, the BET, just an enormous amount of individuals who've done a great job with paving the way for me to succeed. And I'm charged for the rest of my career to pave the way for others to succeed, as the path for my success has been opened by trailblazers in the community.
That's good. So we're gonna end on that note. Are there any parting words that you have, even though that was fantastic? Anything else that our audience needs to know going forward as we, we might be in a recession, we might not be, but what are some final tips or pointers that you want to make for our audience that are watching?
Yeah, I would definitely say that, entrepreneurship is not for everyone. However, you should consider entrepreneurship as a viable option to add on to your current income stream. And I will also say that do the best that you can to really have those conversations with your children, have those conversations with your parents, have your conversations and helping to protect your estate. Getting a will, something as simple as a will, yet 75% of people in our, not just our community, in general, don't have a will. So getting your estate planning in place is very vital, very key, because we don't know when we're going to leave.
No.
But we don't want to leave the burden on our loved ones when we leave because we didn't take care of our business.
Yeah, and GoFundMe is not life insurance. And also, if you need help with those types of insurance products, our friend Tammy Felton at the State Farm Tammy Felton Agency in Wyckoff, New Jersey, she can help you with that as well. Hey, Tam. So no, we have to do a better job of educating people on the end of life situations that arise, like probate and all of those things that happen after someone passes. We need to be more literate, and myself included. I have older parents, and so I'm kind of getting into that whole mindset of, okay, what do we do if XYZ happens? So we want to be able to have these conversations more openly, because I think as a people, we're just afraid to talk about money because of the trauma that is often associated with it. And I'm so guilty of it. Quick story: when my husband and I We had just bought our home, and we were doing some financial stuff, and I had to go through all of my student loans and come up with the final total. And I was so anxious. Like, I had to take a walk. I walked like a mile. I was so like heart palpitations. Like, I couldn't, I was like, he's going to leave me. Oh my gosh, I'm going to be, single again, or what, all of those things that just come into your mind. Cause there's so much trauma and so much, depending on who you are, so many things that have happened negatively have come as a result of the lack of money. And so when we get into a position where we have, to plan ahead or even get a higher income or something, it kind of brings on a different level of anxiety. But we have to find the tools or the methods to push past that or get help with that, with a financial planner, with an insurance advisor, all of those things, so that we can kind of work through all the things we have to do. Because, no matter what, life happens to all of us. And so being scared is not going to stop it from happening. So you might as well just keep going forward. If that makes sense.
Oh, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a tremendous amount of sense. I was fortunate being raised by a banker, so money management skills was indoctrinated in me at a young and early age. And as a result of that, I've been able to pass on that information to my children, who are now taking care of my grandchildren. And that's why I say that we have to start with our children and really getting them understanding about money as early as possible. And as we know, when we can teach someone something, we better understand it. And then, it's just a cameo effect. So I really thank you for allowing me to come have this conversation with you today.
Yeah, Jason, thank you for coming on, and this was great. We're going to do this again, but we want to have these conversations more often, just so that people can start getting to know your faces and knowing that you guys are a resource here in the community. You are based in Teaneck, and you service the entire New Jersey, New York, New Jersey.
New York, New Jersey. I'm licensed in a number of states, but definitely New York, New Jersey.
Okay.
I'm available.
And also, you, like, to repeat, you said you are looking for people who want to be financial planners just like you are. So
exactly.
If you're interested in making a career switch, or you've always thought about, going into finance, Jason is the guy to talk to. I want to say thank you also to David Carlor of Northwestern Mutual. He's located in Paramus, and he also services the entire New Jersey community. And I just want to thank you for your time. Thank you guys for watching. Just a quick set of updates. So with NJ in Color, go to njincolor.com. Send us your upcoming events. If you have, you're launching your book, you're going to have an event?
Absolutely. I'm finalizing the location.
Okay, well, send it to me.
I certainly will.
Yeah, so we have our BIPOC business directory and network. So the network is actually a Facebook group where we share information, we share upcoming events, we just, business to business platform for us to share how we're doing in our businesses and what we have coming up. So join that. We're on Facebook. We're on, we have an email list, and we also have the directory. Also, going back to, I made a mention about the Girl Scouts of Northern New Jersey. Their Women of Excellence fundraising gala is on April 20th. So if you would like to buy tickets, go to gsnnj.org for those tickets, and you'll see me there. And then also, just follow NJ in Color, and let's have a conversation more often. So this is the first of many lives to come. So I'm thanking you, Jason and David, for your time today. And you guys have a great day. And remember that NJ in Color, oh gosh, I forgot my own tagline, Lord. Just follow us, okay? We connect you to the diversity of North Jersey and beyond. Take care.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.